Hello, this is the second version of Conserving Your Entitlement, the best practices and advice on how to stretch your VA educational benefits. The first one is 37 minutes long, so I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. We're going to cover the slides, assuming that you can read them, and then I'm just going to point out a couple of things that you may want to see. Alright, let's begin. So I am currently the certifying official of Long Beach City College. However, that is not to say that this presentation is formally approved by the VA or Long Beach City College. This presentation has more to do with just tips, things that we have seen in the past that have worked out for our students, and we want to get this information out as soon as possible. Now, all of our information here is based upon the population, or rather the current population of Long Beach City College. The data doesn't necessarily apply to every single population, to every community college in California or across the nation. However, the methodology of what we're using is useful. The actual tips are useful to students, regardless of what state or institution you're going to. Okay, so here's the breakdown of what our students look like at Long Beach City College at this time. These are the students who are utilizing a VA educational benefit. I'm not going to read them out to you. What I want to point out to you though is that the majority of them are using Chapter 33. So the tips that we're going to use today are actually going to help mostly individuals using Chapter 33, Chapter 30, 1606, 1607. 31 works in a different delineation. You can actually extend your time using different methodology for Chapter 31. Chapter 35 already has 45 months, and that's significantly more than the other chapters do. So again, we're going to be looking at 1606, 1607, Chapter 30, Chapter 33, which has 36 months of educational benefits. And again, here's a breakdown of the population of the students utilizing the VA educational benefits at Long Beach City College at this time. As you can see, the larger majority of them are trying to be transfer ready. The second highest majority is planning on obtaining an associate's degree. Then there are those who plan on getting a certificate, plan on getting an AST and transferring, getting an AA, and then being transfer ready. Now, at this point in time, I'd like to make a differentiation. The AST/AAT is an associate's for transfer. That is something that's set up between the CSUs and community colleges in order to streamline the transfer process, and this is what I mean. There's only a handful of them to begin with, but let me just give you an example. The business major requires that you take 8 to 9 classes in order for you to transfer. So regardless of what CSU you're taking, you have to take these 8 or 9 transfer courses for that major. And if you take them at a community college, the community college can also award you an associate's for transfer in business. So it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It's very nice. At the very bottom where you see 22 plan on obtaining an associate's degree and transferring, I'm discussing those who complete an associate's degree that is not necessarily required to transfer. And the most common one that we have is criminal justice and administration of justice. So there are students who want to get an associate's degree in administration of justice and then transfer to get a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And let me just give you an example. It takes about 9 classes to get an associate's degree, 9 classes of core curriculum to get an associate's degree in administration of justice at Long Beach City College. But if you plan on transferring to Cal State Long Beach, only 2 of those classes are actually required for their transfer core curriculum. So essentially 7 classes you're taking extra that aren't necessarily needed. It extends your time. At this point in time, I'm also going to observe that we are going to neglect a certificate from here on, because if you have 36 months to complete an education and your goal is to get a certificate, that's more than enough time to get one. And our goal here is to figure out how to stretch out the time to get everything else. Now, to transfer to obtain an AAS or getting an AST and transferring is approximately 65 units at a community college, 120 units altogether for the basic requirements, and then 85 for obtaining an associate's degree and being transfer ready. Those are the numbers we're working with. For the next couple of screens, we're going to be doing some math, because when you walk into a community college or a UC, a CSU, private college, or any state university, and you plan on getting an associate's degree or even a 4-year university, you kind of have the understanding that 36 months really isn't going to get you as far as you probably need to go. But just knowing that doesn't necessarily mean that you understand the exact numbers of how much you're short by. So let's actually look at that. Now, when you say you have 36 months for your educational benefits, that means absolutely nothing to colleges. It doesn't mean anything to colleges because colleges use weeks to determine periods of time. Now, as you can see here, LBCC has 44 weeks in one academic year. So how many weeks does the 36 months give you? We're going to bust out some intermediate algebra here. According to the VA, 1 month has 30 days, and of course 7 days in 1 week. So if you take 36 months and you divide it by 1 month to 30 days, and then you multiply that with 1 week to 7 days, you approximately get 154 weeks and 2 days. Now, in order to make this math easier, we're just going to drop the 2 days, and we're going to say that your 36 entitled months is equal to 154 weeks. Okay, going on with this number game, because this is important, the majority of you all tend to be full-time enrolled students because it behooves you all to obtain your full monthly stipend or BAH or MAH or academic stipend, whatever it is that your particular chapter calls it. So within one academic year, how many units does it take in order for you to be a full-time student? It, at very minimum, takes 33 units in order to be a full-time student in one academic year. Okay, so the next step is figuring out exactly how long will it take you in order for you to reach your goal. Now, if your goal is to get an associate's degree or be transfer ready, it takes 65 units. So if you can do 33 units in one academic year and your goal is 65 units, it takes approximately 2 academic years for you to get an associate's degree or to be transfer ready, or also to get an associate's degree for transfer and be transfer ready. Now, if your goal is to graduate with a BA/BS, it takes 120 units approximately. If you can do 33 units in one academic year, it will take you 3.64 academic years for you to get a bachelor's degree. So here's where all those numbers comes into play. If you're a full-time student, how many weeks of your VA educational benefits will it take for you to get an associate's degree or be transfer ready? If it takes 2 academic years to get an associate's degree, and there are 44 weeks in one academic year, you will use approximately 88 weeks of your entitlement. If your goal is to get a bachelor's degree, and it takes 3.64 academic years for you to obtain this bachelor's degree, and there are 44 weeks in one academic year, it would take you approximately 160 weeks to get that bachelor's degree. So 160 weeks of entitlement would be necessary in order to obtain that bachelor's degree. But does that make sense with the amount of time that you're allotted? So if you're a full-time student, how many weeks of your VA educational benefits will you have left after you obtain an associate's degree or you're transfer ready? Because it's the same estimated amount of time. Well, you're allotted 154 weeks of entitlement. You subtract the 88 weeks of entitlement that you use at a community college, and you have 66 weeks left. Now, for those of you who are starting at a university or who are going to a community college and then transferring to a university, if you are a full-time student, how many weeks of your VA educational benefits will you have left when it's time for you to graduate? Well, you have 154 weeks of entitlement, but as we've seen in the last slide, it takes 160 weeks, so you are essentially 6 weeks deficient. Now, there's an even bigger problem, and the problem is that these are the basic standards and expectations and requirements to transfer. These are not, and graduate, these are not realistic. The problem with the previous screen was that it was the very basic requirements. It went under the assumption that a student was testing into college ready English, college ready math, and reading proficiency. And the problem is the majority of our students don't test into those levels. The majority of our students test into the fundamentals of English, which is 1 level prior to being college ready. They test into elementary algebra, which is 2 levels prior to being college ready. And they test into a college reading proficiency course, which is 1 level prior to being college ready. So on average, everything takes an additional 18 units to complete. So that means that for our students, on average, it takes 83 units to obtain an AA or AS or be transfer ready. And ultimately, if their goal is to get a graduate to graduate with a bachelor's degree, it will take them 138 units to do so. So here's where the ugly truth comes in. Now, I'm going to skip all the math that I did before because honestly, even though I was the one doing the math, I was getting bored. So I can only imagine that you were getting bored too. So here are the results had we done the math the long way. Now, on the left-hand side here, you'll see the goals. You'll see the associates or transfer ready, which is 65 units. You'll see the bachelor's degree, which was 120 units. And you'll also see that I noted the AA, AS, and transfer ready, and the AA and BS, just so that you can see what the end results are for those. Now, the second and third columns show the ideal time. Now, when I say ideal time, I mean the individual who tests into English ready courses, English college ready courses, math college ready courses, reading college ready courses. And as you can see, when they leave community college, They have 66 weeks left. When they get their bachelor's degree, they're 6 weeks deficient. Now, if they choose to get that associate degree and also be transfer ready, they have 41 weeks left. If they choose to get the associate's degree and bachelor's degree, they're actually 33 weeks deficient, which is problematic because the majority of colleges have 16-week semesters, which means that being 33 weeks deficient means that you're over a year deficient, a year coming out of your pocket. Now, the last two columns are probably the most disturbing, and they're the ones that you need to pay attention to the most, because this is the average amount of time. This is the real time that's actually used. So if you're getting an associate's degree or you're planning on being transfer ready, when you're done at a community college, you only have 43 weeks left. And if you are in fact transferring in order to obtain a bachelor's degree, in the end you will be 30 weeks deficient. So that will be almost 2 semesters, 1 entire year that has to come out of pocket. And it gets worse if you plan on getting an associate's degree and transferring. Ultimately, in order to get a bachelor's degree and also get an associate's degree, you'll be 57 weeks deficient, which is 2 years that has to come out of pocket. But what can you do? And that's why we're having this presentation. What is it that we can do? What is it that we can recommend for you? Well, first off, before we talk about stretching your benefits, we also have to look into the alternatives of literally stretching the amount of time that you have. One of the alternatives, and this is particularly for very, very new students, you have the option of going from 30 to 33. Now, if you qualify for 33, you probably also qualify for 30. 30 is Montgomery Bill. 30 pays less. It's different rules, different entitlement. However, there is an addendum to that where you can utilize all of your Chapter 30, 36 months, and once it's exhausted, you can apply for 33. You get 12 additional months. So ultimately, you get 48 months, which is 205 weeks, which is more than enough time to do whatever it is you want to do. The only problem is that if there's a huge monetary difference, you really have to look into it. You have to sit down and calculate whether or not it's worthwhile to you, but it is an alternative. Another one would be Chapter 31 vocational rehabilitation. Now, if you have a 10% service-related disability rating or higher, you may be eligible for vocational rehabilitation program. The standard is for you to get upwards of 48 months. However, there have been exceptions. There have been scenarios where students have completed a bachelor's degree on Chapter 31 and then approved for 24 additional months in order to get their master's degree, and then approved for 24 additional months to get their PhD. But these are exceptions. They are not the rule. The rule is 48 months. It's a very complicated program. That's not something that you can easily dive into. And if you are interested, we would recommend that you speak to your local VA office to see if someone there can break it down for you. The other thing we strongly endorse is that you completely understand your major. It's not enough for you to simply have a vague idea of what your goal is. You need to sit down with an advisor or with a counselor and map out every single class that is necessary for you to take. And you also need to do the research on your own. Yes, our counselors and our advisors are wonderful, intelligent, smart people who are trained. This is their job. That's what they do. They're there to academically advise you. But if you actually honestly expect them to understand approximately 400, 500 different types of majors and bachelor's degrees and master's degrees and PhD degrees that are offered in just the California state system alone, and to know them inside and out from every single college, whether it's public or private, then that's completely unrealistic. They're going to do the best that they can, but there is going to be information that slips by. You're going to have to sit down and speak to them, and you're also going to have to do the research on your own. You're going to have to really consider how many units it takes. Insist that the counselor or advisor tells you exactly how many units you have to do. I say that because we have some students coming in where their academic goal is to transfer, and they only need 65 units to do so. Good for them. And I have other students coming in for the first time whose academic goal is again to transfer, usually in the science field, where it will take approximately 98 to 105 units before they get out of here. And they don't know that. And they need to know that. They need to know the reality behind it. You need to know the reality behind it. Now, additionally, you need to, for those of you who are considering getting an associate's degree and transferring, if you honestly have the resolve to transfer and to get that bachelor's degree and you have the resources necessary, it may not be necessary to get the associate's degree. Please, again, consult your counselor, consult your department head, consult anyone who is willing to talk to you about the future and the use of your degree and what would be more beneficial to you. Also, there are scenarios where you might want to take extracurricular courses, and I understand that sometimes it's better to enhance your education through other extracurricular courses. You might not want to get those certified, and there are always ways around it. My go-to is I have a student who is a criminal justice major who also wants to learn how to do silk screening, which is not a GE course. It's not required for his major. So as a certifying official, I'm not technically allowed to certify it. So he went back to his counselor and he finagled his ed plan in order to make it seem as if one day he would be practicing law into fashion design and he would need to know that type of field, which is perfectly fine. He's an adult. We're not going to argue that point. You have the right to do that. You're an adult and you make your own choices. My only issue was that he was essentially taking a course and having it certified for something that doesn't go towards his primary goal, and already you don't have enough time to go towards your primary goal. So as an adult, you just have to understand the gravity of all the decisions you make. So please consider that. Now, the last two dots here are geared more towards Long Beach City College, but they are applicable everywhere. You have to understand and do the research again, what the rules are to your college if you plan on transferring the colleges as far as your military history goes. Now, at Long Beach City College, we give 4 units of health credit to any individual who has a DD 214 with one that notates 1 year of active duty, which is great because that's 4 units you don't have to take. To all of our individuals who are transferring to a CSU or UC, a private school, some of them take JSTs, Joint Service Transcripts, for elective units, which is again great because there are some majors that have elective units. And if you have elective units but you have JSTs and your goal is to transfer, there are opportunities where you don't have to take elective units because your JSTs cover them. Again, it's just saving you time. Do your research, look into it, see if your college takes it or not. Okay, so here's where we actually get into tips on how to stretch your benefits. First things first, we tell students, especially if you're going to a community college and plan on transferring, don't certify your winter or summer terms. And that's not to say you don't take them. Please do take winter and summer terms. Knock out as many classes as you can. Just don't have them certified. It is significantly cheaper to go to a community college than it is to go to a CSU or UC, a private school. This actually probably won't work at a private school at all. But it is cheaper to go at this time. I mean, during winter, it's approximately $300. During summer, it's $450 full time. And that's just tuition alone. Now, if it's possible, please try to save up money and don't certify winter and summer. Try to budget accordingly so that you don't have to. Now, if you don't certify winter, that saves you 4 weeks. If you don't certify summer, that saves you 8 weeks. If you're having trouble paying for this, then we recommend that you go through financial aid. The community colleges have Board of Governors fee waivers. Other states have similar offerings. Now, the majority of our students utilize BAH as their subsistence rate. They utilize it to survive, to live. And since BAH isn't technically something you have to report on your taxes, really your income is zero. So that means you should qualify for financial aid. 75% of our students actually utilize financial aid. 5% of them do apply and aren't qualified for it. 20% don't at all. They don't even apply, which is something that we find strange. But this is a strong recommendation, and we're going to show you exactly what the results of that would be. Okay, and here are the actual number breakdowns of what would happen. So if you don't certify winter and summer, by the time you finish your associate's degree or transfer ready, you'll have 73 weeks left. If you continue to do this practice at your bachelor, once you transfer at your university level, you'll actually have 30 weeks left. You'll have 30 weeks to obtain a master's degree or skip all the way to PhD, whatever it is that you want. If you plan on getting associates and being transfer ready, and you don't certify winter and summer, you'll have 54 weeks left. And so by the time you finish up your bachelor's degree, you'll actually have 1 week left. Now, we also understand that this is only really applicable at a community college level. That's why that fourth column exists, because realistically speaking, since community college is so cheap, you can do this. But once you go to a private school, once you go to a UC, once you go to a CSU, once you go to any four-year university, the price skyrockets. So you're not able to do so. However, even if you transfer and you didn't certify the winter and summer at a community college, but then you transfer, and at your university you do certify winter and summer, and you take all the classes and so on and so forth, when you get your bachelor's degree, you balance out. You break even. Sure, you don't have any time left, but you broke even. You successfully used your GI Bill in order to obtain a bachelor's degree, which is great, wonderful, awesome. Of course, and then you can see in the bottom right hand side, it becomes a little bit of a problem with associate's and bachelor's degree, but we had already discussed that that's already kind of a rough road. Another alternative is to overload yourself. Okay, so here's the problem with this. Just straight off the back, I need to tell you, this will make you go crazy. This will stress you out beyond belief. This will push you to the academic limit, and this is very problematic. We only endorse this to students who have a very strong work ethic as far as school goes. Those who can afford to dedicate themselves to school. You will be doing nothing but studying. So all these preclude the idea that you're a full-time student, but they were all precluding the idea that you were a 12-unit full-time student, the very minimum to be a full-time student. In this scenario here, you take more units, take 15 units, you take 18 units, you overload yourself to kind of finish faster. If you do so, when you are done obtaining your associate's degree or being transfer ready, you have 60 weeks left. So by the time, and if you continue to do it at a four-year university, you'll only be 2 weeks deficient. If you're going to be getting an associate's degree and transferring, you'll have 38 weeks left, and in the end, you'll have 24 weeks, or rather, you'll be 24 weeks deficient after you get your bachelor's degree. Now, that's under the assumption that you're taking 15 units in fall and summer. Or I'm sorry, fall and spring. We actually don't recommend that you overload in winter or summer. That's just too much. Now, if you choose to overload yourself to taking 18 units, and there have been students who have done this, there have been students who have been successful. We have 3.5, 3.75 GPA students who do this, but again, they do nothing but dedicate themselves to school. Now, if you take 18 units in the fall and spring, by the time you leave a community college or you graduate from a community college with an associate's degree, you have 73 weeks left. And if you continue to do this at a university, you'll have 19 weeks left. Now, on a side note, I know it's not written there, but just you can listen to me. On a side note, let's say you take 18 units and you do that at a community college, and then once you get to a university, you calm down and you just take the 12 units, you'll actually break even. You'll break even again, which is great. And because at a university things get harder, so you need that extra time to study. Now, again, if you choose to get the associate's degree and transfer, and you're doing 18 units a semester, you'll have 53 weeks left, and ultimately you will be deficient significantly. We're almost done, but this is it. This is what we actually recommend students do. This is the one that has worked. This is the one that's been most successful. This is the one that's probably the most promising of all the different strategies we have. And this is simply it. You may enroll in units and then be certified for less time. And this is what I mean. You can be enrolled in 12 units full time and then be certified for 9 units. And that's perfectly acceptable. The only thing you have to do is you have to let your certifying official know, and it has to be done in writing. At our school, we prefer an affidavit, but it can just be in writing, notated somewhere, that you are requesting to certify less units. If you do so, you will slowly be ticking away at your college requirements, while even slowlier be ticking away at your VA educational benefits, which is great. So let's say you're a full-time student and you only get certified for 3/4 time. By the time you complete your associate's degree or be transfer ready, you'll have 71 weeks left. If you continue to do this practice at a university, you'll have 26 weeks left at the end of your bachelor's degree. If you get your associates and you're transfer ready, you'll have 51 weeks left. And then if you graduate with your associate's degree and bachelor's degree, you'll be 4 weeks deficient. Still not a terrible place. Now, again, we understand that the reality is that it's hard to do this at a university level. Many of you are using post 9/11 chapter 33, and it will be required for you to be fully certified at a university because post 9/11 pays for your tuition and fees. So it becomes difficult for you to be 3/4 time and only have 3/4 of your tuition and fees paid. So that's where the fourth column comes in. The fourth column comes in recognizing the fact that you may only do this at a community college. So let's say you did that. Let's say you were full-time and only got certified for 3/4, but only at a community college. That means when you graduate with an associate's degree or a transfer ready, you'll have 71 weeks left. And then when you do transfer and you do choose to get a bachelor's degree, you'll actually be 2 weeks deficient, which doesn't put you in a terrible place. You manage to get your bachelor's degree without doing too much effort-wise. You manage to balance a full load while not overloading yourself, and you ended up okay. So this is why we say that that's probably the best one to do. And again, if you get your associate's degree and are transfer ready, you'll have 51 weeks left, and then you'll be 22 weeks deficient, which is a little bit over a semester. All right, and then at the very end, the last two columns, this one's a little bit difficult to do, monetarily speaking. It's very tricky. This is under the assumption that you're going to be half-time certified. Go ahead and check out those numbers. No one's ever done it. Well, that's not true. One student did it, but it didn't really work out well for her. She had, she was struggling financially throughout her time at our community college. She did successfully transfer, good for her, but it was very, very much a struggle. The other way, the 12 months and 3/4 time worked out significantly better. Okay, this slide is to go an addendum to the previous slide. One of the reasons why people don't like doing partial certification is because 3/4 certification means 3/4 pay. And this pay is what people live on. That's completely understandable why it would make you hesitant. Now, I'm going to utilize our Chapter 33 BAH payment in our area, which is $2,100 a month full time, because it's the most BAH and it's the easiest one to explain. So if you're only 3/4 certified, that means that you're only getting approximately $1,600 and you're missing about $500. And how do you make that up? One of our recommendations is to utilize financial aid. Again, the majority of veteran students are eligible for financial aid because they utilize the GI Bill for subsistence, which means that they don't really have a taxable income coming in, which means that their need is very high, financially speaking. So a Pell Grant is $2,800 a month, or sorry, $2,800 a semester. So that's it. I mean, that's the $500. That's the $500 a month for the time allotted within a school year. That makes up for it. But let's say you need more. At in the California level, there's Cal Grant that can assist you. Most of our veterans don't qualify for it, but they don't qualify for it for the silliest reason. You have to apply to the FAFSA before March 2nd. That's one of the basic requirements. I mean, there's also a GPA requirement. There's also a progression requirement. There's also a unit requirement. And our veterans are awesome. Veterans nationwide are awesome. You get good grades. You go to school. You knock them out fast. But many of y'all don't file your FAFSA before March 2nd, which means that you don't qualify for it. So do so. Your other option to supplement your income would be federal work study. It's minimum wage taxed at a maximum of 18 to 20 hours a week, depending on your area. It's a way to go. It's not the way that we would recommend. We actually recommend VA work study. Now, VA work study is minimum wage, untaxed, and at a maximum of 25 hours a week. They work around your schedule. Now, here in California, minimum wage is $9 an hour. Varies from state to state. However, it's $9 an hour untaxed. It's the same thing as getting a $14 an hour tax job that works around your schedule. Again, and it's not something that you have to report. And again, to make reference to the $500 that you're missing, in order to make up that quarter loss of your BAH, you would need to work 13 hours a week around your schedule again, just to make up your BAH, which is not too difficult to do. Keep in mind that your work site has to be VA approved, but your work site could be your school. Your work site could be your local VA hospital. Your work site could be your local VA cemetery. They have a variety of jobs that fit your need. They don't really turn anyone away. Contact your local VA office to find out where your local VA work sites are. And that's about it. Now, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to email us at veterans@lbcc.edu. Just as a preclude, just understand that a lot of what we wrote down, the numbers are not 100% accurate. Like, for instance, in the beginning we said 154 weeks and 2 days. We left out a small percentage of error. We understand it doesn't apply to everyone. We understand that not everyone takes 65 units. We understand not everyone takes that additional 18 remedial units to get to their goal, but this is just a general standard that we've used and utilized. We also understand that the Cal Grant changes every year, that you're not necessarily eligible for $2,800 in Pell Grant depending upon your financial and your academic goals. We understand all of that. But if you have any type of specific questions, or even if you have a tip that we can share with our students that might be able to assist them in further enhancing their educational goals, please just feel free to contact us again at veterans@lbcc.edu.